And we're good to go. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to our next episode of Masters of Product. Today in our studio, we have Yuying Chen Win. Yuying is a technology and product executive with extensive experience in AI, fintech, and edtech. She is an ex-CPO turned AI executive. She's currently leading everything all about AI at a financial company called Peak Six, and it's a family of companies. I've known Yuying for quite a few years. She's actually not, this is not her first time being a guest, which is always a good sign when your guests come back for second and third rounds. And I'm very happy to have her. And we're going to really talk about how you can actually use AI to build basically personal and team productivity apps. And we'll go more details into that, of course. As for me, I'm your host, Mustafa Kapadia. I help product organizations use AI to be more effective and efficient. You can find out more about me and my services at echo-point.com. Yuying, welcome back. It's good to have you. I am actually looking forward to it. And I've been telling a lot of people
I'm
about
very
this.
excited.
If it's okay with you, let's just jump in. We only have about 45 minutes or 50 minutes, and we have a lot. And by the way, just for people who are listening in, this is going to be a multi-episode or multi-part conversation. So we're just getting started. To be honest with you, this actually entire episode started with a conversation Yuying and I had like 3 weeks ago, right? In which you were talking about, hey, can I build this for my team? And we went to this whole bunch of rabbit holes and say, well, can I make a project manager with AI? Can I do this with AI? Can I do that with AI? And you had a fascinating vision of what you see potential of how AI can be embedded into teams. And so I think that's a great place to start. If it's okay with you, why don't you share with me a little bit of what you shared? Actually, why don't you share with the audience a little bit of what you shared with me the other day? Because I think you do have a unique perspective. And I think that will actually help put everything in context.
Yeah. So one of the things we always started with in our premise for how to use AI within the team was that it should be like another team member. And a big reason for that is that you should not come out of your current workflow to go work with AI in a separate window, learn a different application, etc. Right? Yeah. It should be interweaved so it becomes seamless. So that's kind of the entire idea of this AI as a team member, which you've heard the idea in a lot of places. But what is that? How do you actually land that? What does that actually
mean? The manifestation is
right?
Very hard, right? Yeah. Like how can you make AI truly a counterpart, right? As opposed to, because you're right, right now the workflow is disrupted, right? You have to either go to Claude or ChatGPT and get your work done, but it is definitely not treated as a team member, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So the thing that we saw with the chat interface with all the chat bots, right? In some ways, it's intimidating when you're just a big blank screen with what can I do for you? Even with a couple of pre-canned questions, you're like, huh? But when we are talking to a person on Slack, on Discord, on what have you, you have very specific questions. You know how to interact. It's not actually a scary thing. So the idea was actually just pull that in. It's a chat interface. Let's pretend it's a person. How would that interaction happen? I think that kind of sets the scene of where we're going with this.
Right. And there's several tasks that you're focused on, but you focus first thing on project management, specifically on task management, right? So tell me more about that, because I think that's what we're going to build, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So we're in a situation that I think a lot of people find themselves in. It's a small team. It's only about 5 people. Some people are remote, some etc. Not quite big enough to hire a full-time PM. Right? I think we've all been there. You're kind of like, well, we need organization. Which one of you is the closest? Right? So you do it because it doesn't make any sense to hire a full-time PM.
Yeah.
Everybody else is tech. We got a principal architect, we got a chief architect, principal architect, front end that's like staff level, designer, et cetera, kind of pieced together. The size team is very common. Now, I haven't actually project managed for quite a while, but I was the closest. It was not going to be one of the architects.
No.
Right. I know what should be done. Am I really good at it? Am I super organized about it? No, I usually tell a PM what to do. So you can hire, but with the AI, you're like, what it makes sense is if I just get the AI to do the pieces that I know should be done for me.
Yeah.
Right? Very, very simple. So, and then Mustafa and I had this discussion of, am I making an AI PM? What does a PM actually do? And what we come to the conclusion is that we're not trying to get the AI to hold people accountable to timelines and deliverables. I'm like, that's just a negative place to start. But really what we want, if you had the option to have an assistant for your team, no cost, very low cost, I just remember the stuff I need to do. Tell me what I need to do next, just to keep it organized and, be a PA for the team. We were like, that's something that I think every team would want, no matter what size. It's just a helpful person, right?
Yes.
So that's where we ended up. So that was a great discussion with you, Mustafa, because I was trying to figure out, like, where do I do this? Do I really want a AI to nag me? Be like, you said you'd be done by Friday, but it's not done yet.
Yeah, that's the last thing you want is to AI to be the mommy syndrome. Like, what did you do your homework now? And just for clarification for our audience, and Yuying, tell me if I'm wrong, when you're talking about PMs, you're talking about project management, not product management, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Very specifically
we attract a lot of
project
PMs and
management.
product people, but in this case, you're talking about the project management aspect of product management. Yes.
Yeah, and a lot of product manager take up that portion of it too, right? So
yes, I agree. And depending on on what organization you are, 80% of your job might be project management and only 20% product. So it depends. Yes. I'm glad I could be of service to break down your illusion and get you back to reality. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you needed
it. Always good to be. I'm always happy to be a sounding board. But it was good, and I think that's really when it sparked this idea. I'm like, hey, you're building it. Why not we learn from you? So you have started to build the components or parts of this components of this vision already, right? Which is the other fascinating thing, because if you think about it, we literally had this conversation 3 weeks ago, and you already are at a point in which you have built something for yourself and your team that you're engaging on a daily basis. And that's just the speed at which you can move with AI.
Yeah.
So tell me more about
3 weeks on it.
Yes. Well, we'll talk more about that as well. Tell me more about what you actually built, and I know you actually even have you can actually show it live. So let's talk a little bit about that, and then let's break down what you're actually going to show today to the rest of the audience.
Yeah. So I will set the stage with, we started with the normal, like, should we do Jira? Should we do GitHub issues? We have Monday.com. I've tried them all, and the technical parts of the team are like, no, we can't figure out how those work. We hate it. We don't want to use it. So
yeah. I mean, those are hard. Those are hard tools to get data out of, right? In fact, I was just talking to a client, and we're trying to figure out how we can automate some of the Jira stuff, and just exporting data out and then having the LLM read the data has always been a challenge. So,
I mean, the thing is, they all have too much functionality for somebody who doesn't live it day to day. As I said, I'm not normally a project manager, so I have to go through, be like, what's this feature? Where do I do the simple? And it's the same for them. It's not their job either to understand how those software work, right? Yeah. Okay, so give everybody kind of the idea of where we would end up. We share what we are actually using with the team today. I am going to share my whole desktop here. There's a lot of things. Don't get overwhelmed.
That's okay. Tell me when.
Yes. Let me get to.
Yeah. Okay. I'll add your screen once it's up and running. I don't see it up and running yet.
All right. It should be coming in for the UI here.
There you go.
Okay. So this is the UI aspect of what normally we would do, just a Kanban board, right? So this is, as you can tell, there's only a few people on the team. I have them vertically because, it's how I think about it. I'm not constrained by anything. I just
Yes.
have 3 simple swim lanes of the now, next, and my backlog,
Perfect.
right? These are our tasks. I got little tags. I have all features specifically for the things that I have to deal with. I have a collaboration with a team called Apex, and I only want to show them a subset, and I want everything synced. So I have a view for that.
Perfect.
And very self-servicing, I do a sprint report every 2 weeks.
Yes.
And look at that, I just made a view so I don't have to go and be like, wait, what did we finish?
Yes.
Let me organize this. So this is my
Perfect.
generated view for what I'm going to send, right? So I'm literally just putting in exactly the things that I need to do
Yeah.
to run our current team based on what's happening. I don't care about any other features or people do it differently. You could,
Yes.
I don't even have sprints on the main page, even though it has the sprint idea and can generate those, because we don't really care. We just care about what happens next.
Yeah.
So you can
And so
create tasks.
you've almost created a task, or you've almost created your own productivity tool that's extremely hyper customized to just what you want, right? And I like the simplicity
Yeah.
because you have David, and then you have what's he doing now and what's he doing next, or what he's planning to do next. It's very simple, right? It doesn't have to be more complicated than that.
Yeah.
At least for your
So you
niche.
can see I just add tasks in here. New tutorial. Okay, and these things I can add, and there's only tags that I care about. They will be in here. You can see here in the backlog, so I'm not faking it. I can assign that to myself here, drag and drop. New tutorial, I can start it. I can make this. I even have, so the completion, all of that. So this is real, but realistically, there's only me and one other guy who would work in this view because this is what our preferred. Most of the devs are like, no, I don't want to look at it. Even this, I'm like, no, I don't know. What should I do next?
Yes.
So
even this
what I
simplicity,
have, I
people
won't go
have
through
an
it.
aversion to tools. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So what I have set up, now we built an internal platform called R2G2, purely internal. Don't sue me on IP. But we have the integration. It's a Slack app because we talked about it being a team member. So this is part of how we integrate in. So just talk like a person. So I made this little AI tracker channel, but I could have just put him in our team channel. We did this for debugging purposes because we're still tech. And you can see here, I'm just going, hey, Jacob is part of team. I'm like, R2, add Jacob's following things to his tasks. And here we go. And it's converting, it's writing it. If you look at the UI, you will see these tasks for Jacob. So we go create, that was the update, create Jira ticket. Oh, that is this one, sorry, Jacob.
Yeah.
Right, top 3 MCP server use cases. So if you look over back with Jacob, top 3. So you just write it in the Slack and it can update here. You can go, I'm done, and it will update it here. And then this meets the very specific need. Well, you'll see here a little bit in David going, what am I doing next? It'll just tell you based on. So this is the core interaction because I need to plan in this. I can't just plan. Like sometimes for me to throw in updates after stand-up, which is exactly what I was doing this morning, because we had stand-up and David goes, I need to know what I'm doing next. I'm like, okay, I'll throw it in. And this is me throwing in what David needs to do next in here and go, it actually rewrote it much nicer, right? I wrote it as something much shorter. It actually organized everything, set the status, swim lane, change the assignees, right? It's underneath different, I have goals and products and all of that stuff. So this is a core loop of what I was getting to.
I like it. So can I step back just so that I understand what you did? So it's almost like you did 2 things, right? Two big changes, right? Number one is instead of going after very highly complicated apps like Jira and Monday.com, you actually end up building your own very simple workflow, right? In which you actually have simple swim lanes about what am I working on now, what's next, and what's backlog, with some type of automation so you can get a status report, right? And I'm assuming in there you can actually change reports and you can change the status so you can move things along as you can do. So you build almost a personal task tracking app, for a lack of a better word. But on top of it, you built almost like a Slack interface. So you don't even actually have to you don't even have to go into the productivity app. You can actually just use Slack to be the main communication channel, in which by it interacting with your productivity app, your team can find out what are they working on. They can change status. You can get a report. You can add tasks and move tasks around. Is that fair? Like it's really two things, right? It's part of it is building your own app, productivity app, to make it customized to exactly what you want, and then creating a Slack interface so you can get that teammate experience that you were talking about. Is
Exactly.
that fair?
Yeah. Because the thing is, with
Yeah.
a lot of platforms, you really only need some of the features, maybe even less than 20%.
Yes.
But you got to go find it first.
Yes. And I agree. And that's, to be honest with you, Yuying, that's a whole different conversation about what happens to all of these, not just things like Jira, but all the other SaaS products out there. Because in reality, an
Yeah.
organization uses only
We've talked
20%.
about this.
Yes. That's a whole different conversation. So that means that you just have to come back. That's all. So let's actually, if it's okay with you, let's get our hands dirty, right? I tell me, part of this conversation was like we were going to build it live, right? You were going to replicate what you build live. Now, what you share with me is even though it looks simple, it's quite complicated. It has multiple steps to it. So tell me what you're going to build today, and then what we can always have a follow-up conversation or a follow-up session in which we can keep building on it as you go along. So which part do you want to build today?
All right. So let's do what I call the purely customized task management piece.
Perfect.
Right? Because there's two major pieces. We'll
Yeah.
start with the first one.
I think that's
And
great.
one thing I'm going to ask you is, as I'm going into it, you can give me one like really specific feature, so we know it's not like pre-canned from my other thing that we add.
Okay.
Right? Okay. Let me see. Perfect. How do I need to present on this side. Let me do just the whole screen just for simplicity's sake.
Yes. Let me see. Okay, I'm going to add the whole screen. Yes?
Yes.
Oh, and then let's talk about the tools that you use too, because I see you're using Lovable, which I also love. Did you predominantly use Lovable for all of this, or did you use anything else?
So I usually start with trying all four of Claude artifacts, Lovable, v0.dev, and Replit.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Now for this one, as you can see, I've really kind of delved into Lovable. Lovable for me, the advantage is the first shot UI is the best looking UI. Now, I don't have designer. I don't have front end, right? So I'm heavily relying on this. In terms of who I have access to, we have heavy duty like back end architecture, all of those expertise. So I'm leaning on this one because this is the strongest in the piece that I'm missing, which is the design of the front end. And also makes sense for what we're doing. So task management in terms of UI, it's a whole quite a bit of interaction.
Lovable is actually quite good from a UI perspective. I think they actually use in their system prompt. I think they use Apple UI best practices. I think that's part of it. I'm gonna read what you're typing. I just need to get closer.
Yeah, you read because otherwise I can't.
Yeah. Um,
Oh, I missed all the.
let's build a web app to track tasks in Kanban board style with swim lanes of now, next, and backlog. Perfect. Very simple. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. By the way, if I'm a team member, do I get a paycheck too? Because that's the one I'm interested in the most. Um, so while Yuying is typing, the first instruction is let's build a web app that looks like a Kanban board that has very simple swim lanes, now, next, and backlog. And then she's also adding names of team members who are Yuying herself, myself, which I'm not getting a paycheck for, David and Polly, correct?
Yeah, Polly is my co-host on my podcast. I'm just.
Oh, that's right, Polly. Okay.
Yeah.
And then add a new task button so we can add tasks as we go.
Yeah. So the thing is, when you start, avoid
Yeah.
naming the entire application. I kind of make a gauge about how small or how big I start. This one, I just have the basic swim lanes. I use Kanban board because there's a lot of general knowledge and understanding about how Kanban boards work.
Yes.
So I don't have to detail out, right?
Yeah.
There's a couple of specific things. My swim lanes, I'm using now, next, backlog.
Yes.
I want the verticals to be people, which is not common. It's not a
yeah, because usually people are the horizontals. Yeah.
This is the kind of thing, like, sometimes it's just how I think, and if I'm managing it, I just want it to be how I think versus whatever they decided was the
whatever works for somebody else. I agree. Ultimate customization.
So based on what I've typed, you can always start with a smaller scope and then add to it as you see it. Okay.
Nice.
What do you think?
Let's add a task. Yes.
Okay, it should by default be in
the backlog. No?
It should be.
Do you need to assign somebody? Because I didn't see you assign anyone.
I didn't. So this is one of the adjustments I made earlier on as well. The backlog task should not need the task to be assigned because it's in the backlog.
Yes. Oh, I see. Okay, so it goes into a big bucket. Okay.
So now next is assigned backlog.
What I was just going to point out to our audience is that I love the fact, I mean, people talk about vibe coding, but in reality, that's what you're doing. You put a simple prompt in, it gives you something, and now you're just going to perfect it and keep changing it till you finally get what you're looking for, right? So.
Yeah. So depending on the style of product management, this is what we're really doing is product management. Okay. You see the fix?
Yes, okay. I did. Yeah.
I am very much a iterative product manager. I have like a basic idea. If I see it, I'm like, oh, no, that's not. Oh, I see what you did there. No, don't do that. Right. If you work with me as a product manager, you know that that's what I do.
Yeah.
Some product managers like go off by themselves and like, oh, I'm going to map out everything, think through the world, have super detailed, and then come back. Right.
Yes.
That's not my style.
That's good.
This is definitely my style.
So it works for
all right.
I'm
gonna assign
you're gonna give it to me, of course. The one person who's gonna do the least amount of work.
You noticed the drag and I didn't say anything about drag and drop, did I?
Yeah. I also noticed that it actually created an unassigned column, right? So there was two ways they could have actually done it. It would have actually just made a bucket that flows through across all columns, right? On the bottom, but it chose to create a different row for unassigned. So
yeah. So if you if you're watching the video and you're scrolling back to my original demo, you'll notice that the other version, I have the backlog at the bottom, a complete row that's unassigned. Just backlogs in general are unassigned.
Yeah.
And this one chose to implement differently. I can make it switch for sure. But I will leave it up to you, Mustafa, right now. What do we want to do next?
Actually, all right. I do want to see you actually create a generic backlog as opposed to having an unassigned column. Because frankly speaking, in unassigned, you don't need now and next.
Okay. Yeah.
And then once we do this, I'm gonna share with you my favorite task about project management, or the feature that I like the most. And what I love about Lovable and what you're doing is you're just talking to Lovable in simple English. There's nothing here, right? You're just like, okay, this is what I want. This is what I don't want you to do. Have you found? And I'll wait for you to finish typing, and then you can answer. Have you found that there's a certain way to talk to tools like this?
Yes, there is. And this is one of those where being a product manager, so obviously I did that for more than 15 years before
Yeah.
going into executive and AI. It's very helpful to always lay out the context of like what the task it is you're about to do, you're about to ask it. And what you're asking it, ask it to do one feature at a time. I started out with like do this and then this, but change that and that sometimes it's fine. It'll always try, and sometimes it gets confused. So I have learned to really go, okay, it's done. Let's focus on just making that. Like what I just wrote, it's slightly on the edge of like drifting into a more complex task. The best thing to think through is if you were working with a junior developer, you would never ask him to do like 7 things at the same time.
No, you would do one thing at a time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. You know what I found out, and I'm curious.
Did you see the change, by the way?
I did see the change. I like it. I love the fact that it actually got rid of the unassigned and it created a global backlog bucket. So, oh, that's right. You and I need to talk about the NVIDIA conference too. By the way, Yuying write a fantastic blog in which she talked about the conference last time, so you should go check it out. So.
It was anyways, that's my go-to. That's like the rock concert for all the AI nerds. So you should be able to see on the screen backlog is doesn't care about assignees, right? I actually did one little update in there that puts the assignee information in the tile. So if I chose to assign in the backlog, it will show up in here. And the unassigned is gone. All right. Should we do the one thing so a couple of things about this. There's publish. So right now we're just like, I can't be like, hey, Mustafa, you can try it.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. How do you deploy it? And how do I get access to it? Yes. There
we go. All right. We're going to click publish. And then I'm going to give you this URL.
And then I can play with it.
And you can go in and...
I'm gonna take that task and I'm gonna reassign it to somebody else because that's what I used to do.
You're gonna assign it to Polly, who's not even here. He's like, what on earth?
That's my management philosophy that has helped me so much in all my life. It's like take a task and reassign it.
So it has been deployed. This URL, since I didn't put any authentication on it, you guys watching it can actually type it in and
go. Yeah, let me see if I can actually post it on. If you can put it in chat, I will post it.
Yeah,
let me first find chat. All of the screens that we have open. There it goes. I see it. I am going to post this. Let me see if I can actually post it on LinkedIn while we're actually having conversation. I don't know if LinkedIn allows me to do that. Oh, you know what? I can only receive comments. I can't post comments, which is annoying.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'll
So
put
we
it.
can.
I'll put it. So yeah, I can. There you go. I can. You know what? But I'll tell you what. I can't see the task. My task on when I click on your piece. So while you can see your task, for attend conference and
Perfect.
test out
This
app,
is like a good lead-in. You have a guess as to why?
it's probably because it doesn't know where it's pulling the data from. So I was going to ask you, where is it saving this on on the data, or what's the database it's using?
Yeah. So by default, it's local. By default,
Ah,
what I make is just for me. You see this
yes,
little thing here?
yes. Superbase, yes, 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 of course.
Okay. So now this is I've been playing with this for a while. So I actually have a Superbase project that's all connected and created. But if you're completely new to Livable, when you do this, it will create all of those connections. So let me go back and I will just say, save the task information to a database in Superbase instead of.
You know what, while you're doing that, I'm going to see if I can actually add it as a LinkedIn comment. So if people are watching, they can actually play around with it, sorry. Let me go to our event on LinkedIn and see if I can add a comment here. All right. By the way, your task is now, I put your link of your task in LinkedIn. So now you're going to get like 1 million people looking at it. Or at least
Well,
adding
they
the
can't
task,
see
right?
anything until I put the database.
Yes,
They'll be
that's
like,
true.
that's why. And I can make my own task. So so while this is doing the database work, what that means is you can use the app and you will just have your own little version where you're tracking. Of course, somehow you're only giving tasks to Yuying, Mustafa, David, and Polly because you don't have access to change that. But all right. Great. It actually has a bug. So I want to show you. So we're moving the storage to the database is it's not a simple thing, right? So it says, hey, you can create a project. I'm like, yep, I already created it. Okay, great. Let me do this. And sometimes you'll get, wow, it's error. Try to fix.
That's my go-to button. That's what I do.
Yeah. What's great about it, of course, it actually copies in the context of the errors and what's happening, and it'll fix.
Perfect.
URL and key. So this is database access. We're setting this. Ooh.
And by the way, you have the premium version of Lovable. Which one are you paying for?
The cheapest one.
Okay.
You can get pretty far without paying, but I run into the daily limit very quickly, as you can tell.
I do the same thing. In fact, I think the daily limit is like maybe 7 or 10 requests, and then you're done, right?
Yeah.
Now for your for the app, I know you're trying to troubleshoot, so I'm gonna ask you as you're trying to troubleshoot, which is like doing 2 things at the same time, which is almost impossible. Even for the size of team that you have, which is 5 or 7 people, are they still using the same link that you can? Well, Did you deploy it the same way like what you shared with me, or did you do something else?
Not yet. So I do always test the feature that I've added because
Mhm.
sometimes it'll go, yep, it's totally fine. And when I test,
Okay.
you're not seeing the interaction. So I added a task into the backlog and somehow it's not there.
Hmm.
So I've asked it to debug before I publish because otherwise
Right.
there's no, I need a task on here before I publish, before you can see it and verify that you see the task. Otherwise, I have no way of verifying. So
Got
this
it.
is why I say product manager have an advantage. Like we understand how to do user acceptance and how to verify if something works before
Yeah.
moving on to the next piece. If you are not technical, you might be like, oh, it said it was good. And maybe it doesn't actually work or there's some unexpected errors.
So, can I share with you what seems to work with me in Lovable? And actually, I use Lovable Bolt and V0. Is that for every. So, I agree with you to start with only deploy one feature at a time, because I think that is the key to vibe coding. I actually, being the product manager that I am, or I was, whatever you want to call it, is I not only give it the feature, I actually give it the feature, the user story, and acceptance criteria, which, by the way, ChatGPT can write for you. Um, and I feed that into the instruction. And I find that to be much more comprehensive than just typing in, can you create um, a simple backlog that's universal for all users? Have you ever tried that? I'm curious. Like
I have not.
actually putting in your hat of a PM and saying, here's a feature, here's a user story, and here's the acceptance criteria. And actually, I do both, negative and positive. Um, and that has given me much better. It has given me much. I can go a lot further with Lovable that way. And by the way, user stories acceptance criteria is the bread and butter of a PM, right?
This is like live bug fixing.
Yeah, it's perfect. So tell us
Um,
more. I know we've been talking about talking about Lovable, but tell me, let's talk about how you're trying to fix the bug.
okay. So uh, I have a habit to always test the feature right
Yeah,
afterwards, right?
yeah,
So what I was
always good.
verifying is that adding a task and updating still works, but if I
Yeah,
publish that it shows, and right now, as you can see, it's the tasks are missing. Like
yeah,
it showed up, it was there. So from a system perspective, it didn't error out. From the expected behavior perspective, I'm missing information.
yes. Is it because it's not connected to the database, so it's losing the information?
This is what we're trying to find out.
Yes.
So one of the things, so this is the second piece of the integration I was going to show. We said that Lovable is, I chose it because it's better at the UI by default,
Yeah,
right? So these things are all new. It's not good at everything. One of the things I
of
like about
course.
this because of the super base piece. But as you can
Yeah.
see, sometimes when we are fixing the issue, let's see, you'll need to set up. I'm trying to decide whether I should do that other piece while it's debugging or not.
Well, you mean the integration with Slack?
With Supabase.
Oh, with Superbase, yes. Okay.
Yeah. So in terms of UI functionality, as you can see, we can easily add UI functionality. The database connectivity, depending on how you do it, you can run into the issues. Lovable can debug, but I've actually found I usually use something else. If I do 2 or 3 tries and it's not fixing it, I will actually switch tools.
Which one do you go to?
So
Have you
when
tried
this,
Cursor or anything? Because those are much better when it comes to
so you'll
um,
see that I have windsurf running.
Windsor. Okay.
Cursor is similar.
Yes.
So one of the other reasons I like Lovable is because of the GitHub integration right here. Because
Yes.
those of us that are technical enough know that once it's in GitHub, like any other application that you're building, now you can
Yeah.
default to the IDEs, or you can get actually a senior dev to take a look at the code and just point out the issue. So right now we're still fixing, which this does happen, right? So I
Yeah.
just want to show the integration. We might have to kind of pause here versus like continuously debugging.
That's part of the coding. Yes. That's part of the
That
experience.
is part of the coding. And one of the fun things I've noticed about this is it will refactor when it thinks the code is too complicated.
Is that right? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it will break it down. Okay, so this part is working.
Yes.
Let's see. The only way we would know if this the connectivity to the database work is after I publish. If you go in and actually see the task.
I actually just refreshed while you were talking, and I don't see it yet, but I'm waiting.
Okay, now it's updated. Refresh again.
I just did. Unfortunately, I don't see it yet.
Yeah. Okay, so we're still having the issue. So this is a
Uh,
good time for me to do.
I know you think it's a bug. I think it's a feature that it cannot assign me tasks. Trust me, that's a feature.
um, so this is a good time for me to show the other piece. If you're
Yeah,
doing this, you definitely want to do this. So GitHub, we're going to transfer this project to GitHub.
perfect.
I have my own little thing going on right here.
Yeah.
Doo-doo-doo. Okay, so it's in my account in GitHub. So this is getting all right. Oh, interesting. Hold on. It should be cloning.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, so now you see this, and let's see. I wonder why this is not pulling it in.
So while it's
Okay,
doing that, I know we're almost out of time. Two questions. Number one is we need to have you back so you can actually do the Slack integration piece, because I actually think that's that's a key component of your vision, right? And then the other part of this is that what else are you thinking about building to really make AI a key member of your team moving forward? I think managing tasks and tracking tasks is a good place to start. But I'm curious where your head is and where you're thinking.
Um, so quickly, the thing, just to finish what I was doing before,
Yeah.
you saw that I copied the whole thing down in here. Now,
Yeah.
Windsurf is an IDE like Cursor. It is
Yes.
for some of these, what I call more back-end debugging, it's better at it. So I will just switch
Is that right?
over, have Windsurf debug fix, push the fix, and Lovable will automatically refresh. So if I wanted to work on UI, I just go back to Lovable. And if it's
Got it.
Lovable's not fixing something, I just pull the code in Windsurf and I ask it to debug and run through everything. It can run unit tests and do all kinds of much more
Right. Interesting.
technical pieces. Yeah.
And then
Okay.
and then
So
you're pulling it back from the GitHub repository, so Lovable has the latest, correct?
it automatically refreshes. Yeah.
You know what? I did not. That's such a great idea. I should actually do that. I should try that too. Yes,
Yeah.
because you're
So
right.
there's a tool
Debugging
good
sometimes
at
in
the different
Lovable is a pain.
pieces. So
Yeah. Um. All right. So I love part one. We do have to come back and do part two about how you integrate with
okay.
Slack
So
because I
back to your other question.
yes.
Well, we have a little bit of a delay, so I'm just going to go ahead. So the next piece of the vision for the AIPA is
Yeah.
very simple for us. We are a technical team that has built a platform that people use internally. There's all
Yeah.
these Slack channels where people are like, hey, asking questions, what's going on? Maybe there's an error, etc. There's only 4 of us. We're not really tracking those on every moment. So I just want the AIPA to sit in those channels and be like, it looks like there might be some issues. So just flag us in our team channel
Nice.
when there is something. It's a little bit sometimes if Claude goes down, for example.
Yes.
If we happen to look at the channel where people are giving feedback, we're like, oh, let's go and maybe we need to fix it, or maybe it's like, oh, well, it's actually a user error, etc. But that's the next piece that we go. The PA that helps us just do our daily jobs. That's just a portion of our daily job that we just
Yeah.
don't have enough people to monitor all of these things all the time.
Perfect.
And I don't want to buy a monitoring system. That's going to be too complicated to set up.
But I like the way you're thinking because number one is give them basic tasks, which is what we talked about a few weeks ago too, right? Let's start with the very basic tracking. And then as it gets better and better, let's keep adding more and more responsibilities. So in time, it's doing more and more, and it truly is a coworker, right? As opposed to something that just sits on the side. Frankly speaking, I love what you're doing. I think this is, in many ways, not only do I love the fact that, you know what, given your experience that you've been able to talk about from a strategic vision level to all the way down to implementation level, which I think most CPOs can't do. So I think that's awesome. But in many ways, you're also redefining how you can actually use AI, right? So most people think about Lovable for as prototyping tools or maybe helping with a little bit of coding, but you're actually building personal productivity apps. And when we talk about the next time in which you're talking about connecting it to Slack, you're actually building an agent.
Yep.
And so you're
I don't want to use
redefining
the
what
big
it
words, but
means.
yes.
Yes. So you're redefining all of these things, which actually just goes to show that these definitions that we have in our heads are just so much. We're still not mature enough to talk about these things like the way we're thinking about it. Like people, when I talk to people about agents, they think about orchestration within an LLM, right? But agents can do so much more, right? And then you have something like deep research, which is also an agent, but it's very specific to an agent. And it doesn't have, it can make decisions for you, but it can actually do a lot of research for you too. So our definitions of what an agent is and so on and so forth is changing too. And this actually helps make that point even more clear. I know we're having some audio issues, but any other last words before we actually call it for today, and then we'll set up part two about the Slack integration.
I don't think I can go back to using Monday anymore.
People who are from Monday here, you probably don't want to hear that, but yes, there is a whole. We have to have a conversation about what it means for SaaS moving forward, right? That's a whole different story. But Yuying, thank you so much for this. This is great. Just the fact that we were able to do this in 30 to 40 minutes itself is fantastic, right? And that's just the foundation, and then you can actually build so much more. So I very much appreciate
Yeah.
it. And I hope you can come back for part two and part three, because we can keep building on the idea about creating an AI teammate. So,
Awesome.
right.
Happy to.
Perfect. Thank you. Bye for now, folks.